accepted me as I am. And till now, when I go back there, they're always really friendly to me, and they're always like just the same as before, you know, like it's not as if I changed. I guess, you know, although, you know, people wear different clothing, they're still the same person inside, and that you can't change. Back in 1982, when I became Muslims, there was very few Muslims. You would see one or two or three, you know, maybe at the most. And so it was really hard, you know, to that first year for me as a Muslim, because I didn't really know anybody. I was just basically on my own until I met other reverts. I started meeting other reverts a few years later, and but that first year I went into it. I started learning how to pray, and that was, you know, that was, I think, one of the first steps that I did, was learning to pray, and then doing my fast. And with my fast, I was working, so I wasn't wearing the hijab at first for the first year when I did my fast, but it slowly, you know. And then the second year I started wearing hijab. I started my fasting. I was praying. I was doing everything. It just became easier and easier, and then there started becoming more hijabs by that time. Not very many still, but more than when I started. I went to the mosque only a couple of times, and the only mosque that we could go to was on Bayview and Steeles, that Jaffrey Islamic Mosque, and that's where I met other ladies that inspired me even more and helped me out through, you know, my experience. Fatima Zahra is one of the 4 great ladies of the world, and she's the one who inspired me. The strength she had, the generosity she had towards giving, you know, even her jewelry away to the poor people. The stories of her sons, Hassan and Hussein, how Hussein died and left his head chopped off, and she died at a very young age herself, sacrificed her life, and so I really looked up to Fatima Zahra, and when I heard her stories, I started crying. And I thought, what woman could go through, you know, such hardships and come out of it, you know? And another one is Sayyidah Zainab. Sayyidah Zainab, she spoke up and she had so much patience. And if it wasn't for her and Zain al-Abidin spreading what happened to their brother also, I feel that there would be no Islam without Imam Hussein and Sayyidah Zainab and Zain al-Abidin. So I really look up to Fatima Zahra, and as a woman, I look up to Fatima Zahra and Sayyidah Zainab. But yes, of course, I look up to Imam Hussein too. But as a woman, we always look up to other women to get inspired. And mine was Sayyidah Zainab and Fatima Zahra. Yes, I visited Sayyidah Zainab, and I don't know what made me ask, but I just knew I had to go there and ask for patience. And when I came back, I found I was back in first I went to Denmark, and from Denmark I asked my husband if I can go to Sayyidah Zainab, because his niece was going with her children, and she asked him if I can go with her, and he agreed that, yeah, okay, you can go. So I went to Sayyidah Zainab, and I asked for patience. So when I came back, I went to Denmark before coming back to Canada for 2 weeks, and then I came back to Canada. And 2 weeks after coming back to Canada, I found out my sister passed. My sister hit black ice going to visit my uncle in the hospital that was very sick. She died instantly. And then my uncle was in the hospital, and then he died right after that. And a following few months after that, my son, Ali, passed away. And I thought, oh my God, that is the reason why I kept asking to go to Sayyidah Zainab and ask for patience. Even though, you know, like, I didn't know that all this was going to happen, but something inside you tells you, you know, like, you know, just go, you know, and do something. Like, Allah guides us, and He tells us, you know, like, what to do. And, you know, like, I really felt that Allah was pushing me to go to Sayyidah Zainab and really ask for patience. And I look back on it now and I say, you know, it's a miracle, really. It's a miracle that happened, because I needed all the patience when I got back here. And He gave it to me. I got that patience, because I wouldn't have been able to survive all that without that patience. I just remember listening to Yasin when after my sister passed away, and my uncle. I just remember listening to Yasin and Da'at Wasil all the time, and asking, you know, asking for that help, because Da'at Wasil is for help. And I already felt that, you know, Allah, He gave me the patience. It was just the du'as and the prayers that I needed to help me through that. And then after, when I learned, like, my son was sick in the hospital, and it happened so fast. He got sick in January, and he died in April. So it was really fast. And I just remember thinking afterwards, I remember saying to my husband at that time, it was the end of March, and I said, do you know what's coming next month? And he thought, and he remembered that we have another son who died in April, and his name was Hussein, and he died April 12th also. And I remember asking Allah, please, Allah, just give me a miracle. Let this one, you know, let my son live. Give me a miracle. And I just kept praying, you know, like, just show me a miracle. And the miracle was that Ali died the same day as Hussein, on the 12th of April, 7 years apart. And at that time, I'm thinking, God didn't give me a miracle. I asked for a miracle, and He didn't give me one. But I didn't think about it until later. I thought, oh my God, He did give me a miracle. He gave me a miracle that 2 sons of mine died on the very same day, April 12th, 7 years apart. And I look at it as a miracle, because I wouldn't want to suffer going through that twice in the year. Like, once is enough and hard enough, never mind going through it twice. So that was a miracle, that he died on the very same day as his brother. Imam Rada was another amazing trip. I went there twice. The first time we went there was after Hussein died in 2004. And I remember telling my son to get a ruby ring. This was after we visited Imam Rada, and we went to the market. And I remember just seeing this ruby ring, and thinking, Muhammad has to have that ring. Muhammad, get that ring. And I was laughing and joking with him, and he goes, why, Mom? I says, because that's going to bring your wife. And, and we started laughing. And he goes, oh my God, Mom, you're joking. And so he got the ring, and he went to Denmark, and within 2 weeks he was engaged. And I thought, oh my God, at first I didn't even remember the ring. It was my son who reminded me, and he says, Mom, do you remember what you said to me in Iran? He said, buy that ruby ring, and that's going to bring my wife. And look. And so we both started laughing, and it was really amazing. And also I feel that Imam Rada, at that time, he really inspired me. I had no writing skills. I didn't even write. Like, I always thought my writing was really poor, and I wasn't very good in writing. Then I started just writing, and started writing these poems. And my husband also was an inspiration, and he would tell me, you go to what Imam Rada was about. He is the 8th Imam. So you start with that, and then you go through his story, and then, that will help you to write your poems. And so it just started, like, all of a sudden I just started writing, and it just came to me all of a sudden. I couldn't write all the time. It would come to me on when I was really, a lot of times when I was really deep in sorrow, sometimes with my son's passing, I would think, I would remember things that he did. And most of the things were like funny, like really funny things. And he was a really funny boy. He was 7 years old when he passed away, but honest to God, if you heard him, he was like a 40-year-old man. He was in so much pain. And do you know what he said? He said, Baba, just give me the turba of Imam Hussein, and I don't need morphine. Just give me the turba and I'll be okay. And he also died in Muharram, like Imam Hussein, and he was bleeding from all over. He was bleeding from his eyes, from his nose, from his mouth. Anywhere that was open, he would be bleeding, because he was on life support. And he also died of thirst. And I just remember, oh my God, this is the hardest thing any mother has to go through. And you know what? But even though it was so difficult, Allah brings us ease. And I remember thinking that I was able to be in that room with him and to hold him as he was passing. And I just remember lightning and thundering as he was passing, just a great big sound of thunder. And then you would see a light coming through the hospital room with the lightning. And I just felt this peace come over me. A real sense of peace just came over me, and thought, let him go. Just let him go. And, and he's not suffering here anymore. And I told him that he was the best boy in the whole universe. And don't be afraid. Just go. That was hard. But I don't know, Allah, He gives you the strength at that time, just to pull through it. And I can't thank Allah enough that He guided me to Islam, and He gave me this beautiful religion. Because without it, all the things that I've been through in life, I wouldn't have come out of it. I would, to tell the truth, I think I would be crazy by now. Alhamdulillah. Like I said, I can't tell you how much I should be